podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
And Rachel,
2 certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
so join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only 2 best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
We talk about this all the time. I'm so sorry in advance, but we are trying to make sure everyone is aware of the things that we're offering right now in response to this crazy pandemic. So one of the pieces of this I don't think I've talked about before is we're offering single sessions, and we hardly ever do that. And some people might be curious, what if I have a single session, but then I'd later decide I wanted more sessions, but I just wanted to try it out first?
You mean you want to do like real coaching after that?
Yeah, you want to do like a whole coaching package afterward, but you wanted to try a single session first. That's totally fair. And in fact, we will apply what you've already paid towards your single session toward a coaching package. So it's almost like a mini deposit on coaching if you decide to do more. And that's fine if you don't. If you just want one session to talk through something with one of us, that's fantastic. But you can also use it as a bit of a trial to see if maybe you want to do some more coaching without any cost barrier there.
I mean, yes, and they might still have to wait if they want to do more coaching. Because again, we're not in a season.
They might have to wait to get their single session, frankly,
True.
because we're getting
Our calendars are a little bit busy.
Our calendars are a little tight. So we might have to wait either way. But it is an entry point for people who are curious but not sure.
Sure. Also, don't apologize for us talking about this. You started out saying, I'm sorry. We don't have to apologize.
We don't have to apologize. I know. But
We're
for
doing
some people
we're doing
who
a
listen
thing.
this is mostly for the people who listen to every single episode.
they
And
have
they're
thumbs.
like, I know you're doing this. And I'm like,
So
I know.
They have thumbs.
But not everyone does. Not everyone
They can
listens
fast forward
to every podcast. And I don't want people to miss it.
I don't think most people do. I know that if you're listening to all of them, you think everyone else does that. No, they don't.
People pick and choose. It's fine.
So again, we're also doing 50% off the Passion Profile short course, our intro course that helps you get clear on your career direction in like a day. You can do it in a day. It's kind of designed to be done like a day-long workshop, sort of. And then you can also bundle that and a single session for significantly cheaper too. So you can go to the episode notes, or you could also just go to clarityonfire.com/pandemic. Sorry about that. I will apologize for that URL. I don't know. It's just the easiest way to remember it. And then you can like navigate from there to whatever you're interested in doing. So, okay. We've got some new Dear Krachel questions. I'm just going to dive in because we had technological difficulties before we started this episode, and now we only have less than 30 minutes to record it. So we're going to try to be efficient. Efficiency is not a great skill of me. Of me? Well,
no.
Talking isn't either. So here we go. Dear Krachel, a radio show host I like asked his listeners to email and share any positives we might have right now, how we're setting ourselves up to be okay or even do better. I emailed and told how my second job at a preschool is on hold, but my main source of income and insurance is still intact. I have more time during the day to rest and relax and connect with my family, although it's very hard not to see them physically. I've also taken advantage of every offer to cut back on payments and still put a tiny amount of savings in the bank. I cook, shop, and donate a small amount if I can. When I look back at the email before sending it, I realized I felt guilty. There are so many people who are way worse off than I am. I'm not in a position to help in any major way, but as of right now, I'm doing okay myself, aside from some loneliness. I went through a flood in my hometown 10 years ago, and I really struggled then, but learned a lot. Why do I feel guilty about having my head above water? I know it's not helpful, and I can't carry this with me if I want to have my own business one day. What can I do about this? Thanks, Cassie.
I am so glad that Cassie asked this question because I have heard this from so many people that I'm talking to, is we all know that there's this terrible pandemic that's affecting everyone. And if it's affecting you in ways that are not too bad, and for some people, even kind of nice, there's this guilt that comes like, is it okay for me to be enjoying my life and how this is affecting me when there are people dying, when there are people losing their jobs, when there are people whose entire lives are crumbling down around them? And I'm hearing this, and I'm glad that you asked this on behalf of everyone who's feeling this right now. I felt this way myself sometimes. Like I'm pretty okay, and it feels bad to say I'm okay. But here's the thing: you feeling bad about this situation on behalf of the people who are feeling bad for their own circumstances, that does not help them. You can't feel bad enough to make them feel good.
You can't get sick enough to make another person healthy. You can't get poor enough to make someone else rich. I know you think you can. You think you can give all of your money away to someone and you can go from rich to poor and you can make someone else go from poor to rich. That's not how it works. Because have you ever seen people win the lottery? Or isn't there a whole show about people who win the lottery and then lose their money?
Yep.
Because if someone is at a certain, that's where they're hanging out, you giving them something isn't going to change where they're at, sort of on a deeper level. And I think that's true of wellness. That's obviously true in physical health too.
You can't be like, I'm going to package up some of my wellness and ship it over to the sick people and make them well.
You can't do it. And so you can't feel bad enough to make other people feel good. So
in fact, all you do is contribute to the bad feeling of a situation, which brings all of it down.
Yeah, you just contribute to the collective worry and the collective feelings of not enough or lack or fear or all of that. And you're actually dragging everything down when you see the world that way.
I'm sure that a lot of the people who are hardest affected by this too, they're not sitting around saying, if you are well off, you should feel bad on my behalf. They don't want everyone to feel bad with them. I think they would say, if things are going well for you, enjoy that. Be grateful for that. Embrace that, because they wish that they could have some of that as well. So you feeling guilty or feeling bad is not contributing to any good result on the planet. You enjoying your experience and radiating some positivity and feeling good and being loving, and like you said, donating a little bit when you can, or feeling inspired to help when you can with any of your resources, that is contributing to your own happiness and to the healing of the whole planet.
I mean, that sounds cheesy, but it's not. I know that sounds corny, but it's actually just fundamentally a law of physics. That's kind of how the universe works, is that you do people and yourself a lot more good when you're willing to enjoy things and find things to be grateful for. Not like let me just create a list of things I'm grateful for as a performative act. I'm just talking about genuinely being grateful for, oh, it's really nice that I was able to, like Cassie said, save some money, and that it's nice that I'm able to feel okay.
I think it's a great thing that right now people are feeling really grateful and appreciative of things that they very often take for granted. And that is a good side effect of life throwing everything into chaos for people. So if you can look at if you had lost that side job earlier, you might have felt really awful about it. And now you can look at it and say, look at all this that I still have though.
Yeah.
Look at all that I'm still grateful for. I have my loving family. I have my full-time job. I have my insurance. These are things that you're probably not thinking about how grateful you are for those things every single day. And now you are. That contrast is really valuable. And I think even the people most affected by this are experiencing that contrast and feeling grateful for what they still do have.
Cassie actually asked, why do I feel like this? She didn't actually ask, how do I stop? That was kind of implied. But why is it that she struggles to not feel guilty for being able to thrive or keep her head above water at least? And I just want to say it's not personal. It's just a human impulse. And I actually just think it means you have empathy.
Yeah, it's an empathic response to see people struggling and to feel bad that you're not struggling and you're seeing the
And to feel like
contrast.
you can't help, right?
There is a lot of helplessness going on right
Yeah.
now. In fact, not only can none of us create a cure for this pandemic, we can't even really go and hug and nurture and be with and support the people that we love in person right now. So we really do feel helpless, and you're not alone in that, Cassie. I think a lot of people are feeling helpless to this. And remembering that trying to keep your own spirits up for the sake of yourself and for the other people in your life, that is a great service that you can do. That you don't have to be helpless. You being a bit of a shining light of positivity in the ways that you can be, or of gratitude, that is being of service to people who need that right now.
That might not feel like it's enough, but I actually think that that's so much more productive than you feeling bad or worrying about people. Let's remember that worrying is praying for what you don't want. And so you're just giving all of this energy and all of this visualization to the stuff you actually least want to happen. So if you want to have more productive thoughts, or if you want to channel the energy you have toward guilt and make it productive, instead of focusing on all of the people who are struggling and suffering and picturing them struggling and suffering and then feeling bad because you're not, visualize them feeling well, visualize them getting better, visualize them feeling stable, visualizing them getting a job. Like, imagine them in a better situation. And that's a much more productive service that you can render to other people when you're in a good spot. Imagine them in a good spot too. Think good thoughts for them, because they might be struggling to think good thoughts for themselves.
And they might need someone to remind them that good things are coming. In whether you share that or not, it's
Right.
helpful for someone else to be able to see the vision for you when you can't.
Right. Wouldn't it be nice to imagine that there are people out there thinking good thoughts for you in your life, and you never even know about it, but that they're kind of sending you energy, and that they're imagining things for you that you are struggling to imagine for yourself? I think that's very comforting. And so just take all that guilt and channel it into that if you want to channel it somewhere, because the guilt is only poisoning you and it's not helping anybody else. Yeah. So, all right, let's move on to the next one.
Okay, question 2. Dear Krachel, any advice on caring less? I'm on my 3rd job now where I clearly care too much, and it's bringing me down and making me miserable. It's not the job, it's me. That's from Jamie.
I like the introspectiveness and the sort of self-awareness of it's not the job. I know that it's me, because after doing something 3 times and having a similar experience, you can kind of come to the conclusion that, oh yeah, it's not that I just happened to have stumbled into 3 exact, replicas of the same situation. It's me.
I'm the common denominator.
I am the common denominator. So here's my very sort of pared down take on what happens when you care too much about anything. Well, first of all, actually, let me pause and say, let's define caring too much. What is caring too much?
Yeah, I think caring about certain things creates more misery, and caring about other things creates a lot of joy. And so I'm thinking, if Jamie is caring too much about things like what results she's getting, or how people are responding to her, or what people think, or if she's successful, essentially if she's caring too much about external validation, I can see how that would make her miserable.
How do you know that you care too much is the question I was trying to ask. It's more like, well, she answered it, but I want to elaborate on it. She feels miserable. That's how you know you care too much, is when caring is making you suffer. So it might not be misery, but you might feel burnout. You might have very little energy to give. You might feel resentful. Caring too much and resentment often go hand in hand. That's a lot of people pleaser energy right there.
Again, though, the caring too much about, I need that person to respond in a certain way, and then they're not, and then I get resentful about the result.
Right, sure. I think it boils down to this. When you care too much about something, it's because you have inextricably wrapped your identity up in whatever you care about. And so you can't care less, because it feels like if I care less, I will lose a piece of my identity. If I don't perform super well in this job, then I am not a high achiever. And my whole life, I've spent identifying as a high achiever, and I am afraid of the loss of my identity. You could insert any identity into any situation, you can find the bedrock upon which you think your identity is sort of hanging in the balance. That's what I think caring too much means.
You've over-identified.
Yeah,
with
you
this.
have become the thing instead of there's no separation between you and the thing you care about. You are the thing you care about.
And then when the thing that you care about doesn't turn out the way you want, or you're not getting the result that you want,
oh man, watch out.
That's now a reflection on you, and it's going to make you miserable. So I cared about this thing. It didn't work out. Now I feel like a failure.
Yeah.
I cared about this person and they were rude to me. I feel like I'm not lovable.
I'm actually going to go a step further. I am a failure. I am unlovable.
Yeah.
Not I feel
well,
like
that's how
failure.
they feel. But yes, you're right. It's like it's taken on as your identity. So no wonder that feels miserable. When you care about something and you care about it just because you intrinsically love it and it brings you joy and it doesn't really matter what the result is, that's not going to make you miserable.
No.
There's no such thing as caring too much in that context because you're not waiting for some result to crash down around you and make the whole thing feel terrible.
Yeah.
The only other piece of this that I don't know applies to Jamie because she said she knows it's not the job, it's her. But there might be some people who are feeling this way too. Like, man, I just feel like I care too much. And everywhere I go, I care too much. I think for some people, it might be you're in the wrong environment. If you're someone who is a really passionate person and really cares about the mission or really cares about serving the people that you're serving or creating something artistic, and you have so much passion for something, and you're surrounded by people who don't care as much and are maybe just going through the motions and just showing up and clocking their time, you might start to wonder, is there something wrong with me that I care so much? Am I too sensitive? Am I too emotional? Do I need to rein it in?
Yeah.
But
Highly
it's just
sensitive.
because you're comparing yourself to the people around you. And in that case, you might just be in the wrong environment where you need to find people who share that same sense of mission and purpose and excitement and passion, in which case you're going to feel right at home.
Highly sensitives often feel like they care more than everybody else, and that's natural. And I think it's normal and it's good. I we're going to talk more about this when we do book club later this month. Oh my God. Perfect. Because it's the first day of May. On the last Friday of May, we're going to be doing bonus book club. We're going to be talking about Untamed by Glennon Doyle. If you haven't read it, go read it and get ready for the book club conversation of a lifetime. But she talks about that, how highly sensitives care so much, and that she, as a highly sensitive and then raising one of her children who's a super highly sensitive, she talks about how, she cares so much because she's paying attention to how much the world is suffering.
Yes.
And so sometimes that's happening. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, I think we can discern, do you care a lot because you're a highly sensitive versus do you care too much because it's actually, you've gone off the deep end and you shouldn't be caring so much? Am I making myself miserable? Am I torturing myself with how much I care? It's okay to be highly sensitive and have a lot of feelings and feel a lot of empathy or a lot of grief for things. And there's a difference between that and like the self-flagellation and the torture you put yourself through when you're expecting to get results or you're expecting people to act a certain way or when you're expecting yourself to perform at a ridiculous standard. Those are two different feelings.
Yes, exactly. One is more pure and one is more conditional, waiting for some sort of condition to confirm that I cared for a good reason.
Right. So I think to boil it down into a question for Jamie and for anyone who relates to that question is, who is it that you think you're supposed to be right now? And how is what you care about related to who you think you're supposed to be? And how accurate is it? And how true is it? And how necessary is it that that's who you are actually meant to be and supposed to be? So much of it's going to get down to, I'm not going to be a good girl if I don't do this. Or I'm going to be unacceptable if I don't do this. Or I am a good mom. And if I were a good mom, this is what good moms do. They care too much or whatever. Your definition and the definition of whatever it is you're identifying with is going to tell you a lot about why you care too much. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we might need to change the definition of what you think it means to be a good mom or a high achiever or someone who gets along with other people or on and on and on through the list of identifiers that you've got wrapped up in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Rachel's is like, you gave them a question. My question is, what is it that you're actually caring about? Let's drill down to it. What are you caring too much about? Are you caring too much about someone's reaction to you? You're caring too much about a result? Or are you just caring too much because you have a lot of feelings and you just care about a lot of things? In which case, that's fine.
Sure. And all of it has to do with your identity, who you think you are. So, okay, I want to hear who you guys think you are.
No small question.
I want to know. All right. Third question. Dear Krachel, I just got laid off from my job and feel a sense of relief, even though I know I should be scared. What's wrong with me, Tracey?
Such another good question that's reminiscent of the first one, in that you're having a normal reaction to something and feeling weird about it. Feeling like, am I allowed to feel this way? It's like when people get laid off, they're supposed to feel a certain way, and I feel relief. So I must be broken. Tracey, my thought for you is, if you're feeling relief about something like getting laid off, there's a good chance that it's because life made a decision for you that you kind of wanted to make for yourself. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of relieved that somebody else did it for you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It's like when you know a relationship is over and you're like, oh, I'm going to have to break up with them and this is going to be awkward. And then they break up with you and you're kind of mad, but you're also relieved.
Yeah. Yep. And that isn't to say that your life is going to be easy now that you got laid off. We don't know your circumstances, but there could very well be hardship or financial confusion or uncertainty or fear. And that would all be fine, too, for you to be experiencing.
You probably will over time. In fact, That's the nature of a big transition and an ending of something, is that you are going to go through a whole series of emotional responses. And there's going to be fear, and there's going to be excitement, and there's going to be relief, and there's going to be anger. That's all of that would be normal.
Check out my Magic 8-Ball episode from earlier this week.
Seriously, good timing.
More on the grief of transitions and all the feelings that are natural when you're going through a transition.
Yeah, exactly. But I would say if your initial reaction was relief, that to me is just a good sign that this was done. You're ready for something new and you can move on to the next chapter.
I just had a really good thought. I love when I have good thoughts, don't you? Like every once
milk it for a little while.
Every once in a long while, you're like, oh damn, that was a good one. I don't have it that often.
Don't forget it now because you're talking about it too much.
No. I know what it is. Anytime you experience relief is a positive thing. Any time. Let me say this again. Any time you experience relief, you have gone in the right direction. Why? Okay, let me break this down for you. The opposite of relief is resistance. Resistance is, if you're imagining a river, fast-moving current, kayaking upstream against the current. You can do it, but at a lot of energetic output. You have a lot of
resistance coming at you as you are moving upstream. So it takes so much more energy to get momentum going.
Relief is turning that kayak around and getting to take your hand off of the oars. I don't know. Is that what you paddle with when you're in a kayak? You still use oars in a kayak? I don't know. I've literally never been in a kayak. I don't have any aspirations to either. You go with the current, you can be carried. I'm not saying you don't navigate around some rocks every now and then. You might have to paddle if the current gets a little bit slower. But the relief is, oh my God, I don't have to work my ass off to just, honestly, sometimes stay in the same place. If the current is going that fast, sometimes you have to be paddling just to kind of maintain neutral. Relief is, oh my God, I can drop my burden. I am going in a more appropriate, aligned direction for me. Relief equals alignment. And alignment means what I think and what I am doing is matching with my kind of the inclinations and the deepest desires of my true self. That's what alignment is.
Yes, I am so... I can't believe we've never really talked about this before.
We've talked about resistance and going against the current, but we never brought it up exactly like this.
No,
and you know
we
what?
haven't.
Sometimes people need to hear it in a slightly different way for it to actually
we've
sink
never
in.
put that emphasis on relief. And I'll tell you, I have had some clients before where the homework assignment I will give them for the week is do whatever it takes to find relief. Because if they're burnt out or they are miserable or they're depressed, I know that relief is them moving in the right direction. And sometimes relief goes like this. I'm depressed and then I got kind of pissed off.
Yeah.
And it felt relieving to get out of helplessness and to feel kind of pissed off and fired up.
Don't think relief means zen.
Exactly.
Relief can sometimes just be a next step beyond where you are emotionally that feels just a little bit better. It's just progress up the emotional kind of scale.
But relief is your absolute indicator you're moving in the right direction.
Yes.
So imagine like a little flag raising in your brain being like, oh, good, keep going, we're in the right direction.
Yeah, keep
That's all
on
relief
coming.
means.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So it doesn't mean things are going to be easy from here on out. It doesn't mean that relief equals zen and peace and contentment necessarily. It can, but it doesn't always have to mean that. It just means you've released some resistance, and the symptom of releasing resistance is a little bit of relief. And the more resistance you release, the closer and closer and closer you get to the right thing for you.
So Tracey, that means you're going in the right direction.
Right. Good
that
job.
Doesn't mean it's not going to be scary and overwhelming and uncertain sometimes, but this was the right next step. And you could feel that in your relief.
So remember, was it 2 weeks ago when we had our side chat about copping out versus letting yourself off the hook? I think when you are copping out, you often are feeling resistance because you're like, I know I shouldn't be doing, I kind of want to do this. You're creating a lot of resistance when you're copping out because you kind of know you want to be doing something, but you're afraid of it, or you're not willing to put in the hard work and you know something needs to be putting in the hard work. Letting yourself off the hook is relief. I'm not going to beat myself up over that. I am not going to force myself to do something that feels like, as I used in that episode, more like like Dementor's kiss. It's just sucking my soul out. Why would I do that? So if something makes you feel relief, it's probably a good thing. And I know that some of you are probably thinking, and I don't have time to get into all of the nuances of this today, but I know some of you are thinking, well, that's bullshit because I could just sit around and like eat popcorn and watch Netflix all day and that would feel like relief.
But eventually it wouldn't. That's the thing.
It wouldn't.
It would for an afternoon, and then it wouldn't feel like relief anymore. And then the next right thing would feel like relief.
Yes.
So it's always changing. What feels like relief in any given moment looks different based on where you currently are.
Yeah. So what if we challenged you guys today to ask yourself what feels like relief in this moment, in this day, and how can I just drop a little bit of the resistance or whatever it is that's causing me not to go with what feels like relief and just do that. I was just listening to, and then we're going to wrap this up. I was just listening to Dax and Monica on their podcast, Armchair Expert, interview Glennon Doyle, and they had Kristen Bell on there too because she's the #1 Glennon Doyle fan girl. I'll let her have it. We love her, but I'll let her have it. Speaking of Glennon again. And oh no, I lost my train of thought. I was so excited talking about Dax and Kristen and Glennon.
Relief? What did they talk about? Anything?
Yeah, well, they were talking. Yes, but I don't know what it was now. It's all right. Maybe I'll remember in the 2 seconds that we're wrapping this up. Oh God, that's so annoying. Well, but that whole book is actually about that. Is about turning in the direction of who you really are and going with
Glennon's whole life. And that's what she's written about in all her books, frankly.
Yeah, right. And she's a really good example too of someone who did turn in the direction of what felt like relief to her, and it was really hard to do it.
Mm-hmm. It made her life, it threw her life into chaos.
And it was the right thing to do.
Like a relief.
Yeah. So I just think that's actually a perfect homework assignment for people if they actually want to read that book. That was what I was trying to get people to do, is I was giving them the homework assignment of ask themselves what feels like relief and give themselves permission to just go do it.
And can we add on that? Come tell us what you're going to do that feels like a little bit of relief, a decision that brings more relief. Leave a comment. We would love to hear that. It might inspire other people too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And definitely get ready to read Untamed. I'm telling you, please read Untamed. It is amazing. It is required reading for a person who is a human. All of you qualify. So please.
That's all of you.
Read it. And we're going to talk about it later this month. There's so much of what we've talked about today that's resonant in what Glennon shares. But anyway, I'm so annoyed at myself for getting excited and then forgetting.
That's what I was afraid you were going to do earlier. when you kept talking up.
Cursed me. You made this happen. I will not take responsibility for this.
I don't think that's fair.
I remembered my point earlier when I was worried I was going to forget it. And then I wasn't worried this time, and then I did. What does that even mean?
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So this isn't going to be easy necessarily. Going with relief can actually be very hard because then you'll start to challenge yourself with beliefs about, oh no, am I allowed to go in the direction of relief? Because who would I be if I release that resistance?
Does that mean I'm lazy? Does that mean I'm copping out, right?
A bad mom or something, or not a good enough employee. So many stories you'll find yourself telling yourself when you decide to go in the direction of relief. But that's fine. That's actually that's so much what we do in coaching. Oh my God, is just working people through, like getting through the fears and the beliefs that come up when you're trying to give yourself permission to just go with what feels aligned for you.
Yeah, that's the whole process.
It's really just the whole thing. Well, I hope this was interesting. And I don't know, I think we brought up some stuff that's good that we haven't really quite talked about quite in this way.
And again, also leave us a comment if you're one of the 3 people we answered your question, or if you just relate to their question and you want to say, oh, me too, I feel the same way. Come let us know. It's validating for people to recognize they're not the only ones who feel that way.
I still can't remember what it was. I've been trying to.
You will 3 hours from now.
As soon as we stop recording, I'm going to be like, no. I don't know. I'll bring it up on another episode. So stay tuned for that if I ever remember. So, okay, we'll be back on, what is today, Friday? Tuesday? Oh, yeah, we're going to have another reading, a message from the universe on Tuesday.
Right. We'll see you then.